Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about Hades and Persephone, or the kidnapping of Persephone. Now, most of the origins of the text that I'm going to use in this story are going to come from the hymn to Demeter, from the Homeric hymns. But there's a lot of different versions of the story, and a lot of different authors put their input on what goes on when it comes to Hades kidnapping Persephone. Now, Hades is the lord of the underworld, the receiver of many, the one who welcomes all souls in at the end of the road. And he actually was a lonely guy. He was maidenless and he didn't have anyone to be with. So he was told by Zeus. Zeus went to him and told him, hey, I have a daughter that you can have. He willingly told him, take my daughter. So I did a lot of research and I couldn't find any sources where Hades requested Persephone. He did admire her. He did think she was beautiful, but it was Zeus who ultimately said, take her. And Hades was like, okay, but Zeus warned him, her mom is going to be really mad. Her mother is named Demeter. Demeter is the goddess of agriculture, the one who is all about, vegetation and crops and the luscious feedings of the earth that grow naturally in abundance, the vegetables, the fruit, the grain, and everything that humans used to use to survive besides meat. And he told him, Demeter's not going to like this. Demeter's going to be very angry. Just be warned. And Hades said, all right, it's no problem. So one day when Persephone was out in the field, she was out with one of her friends who was a nymph, a river nymph. And they were out in the fields and Persephone saw this beautiful Narcissus flower and she went up to it, and as she got close to it, the earth cracked open and it split apart, and out came this black chariot in the middle of the sky with Hades on top of it, and he scoops up Persephone, and as she's screaming and kicking and hollering, he just goes back to the underworld. The earth closes up again, and Persephone was no longer in the living world. And it was quick as that, it was fast, and Hades is a man who just gets things done right away. So after that, Demeter starts looking for her daughter. She's like, where did my daughter go? Where has she been? I can't find her. Because Demeter was really close to Persephone. She liked to keep a close eye on her because she knew the wrath of the gods. She knew how her siblings were all, when they got angry and when they wanted something. And fun fact, Demeter was siblings to Hades and Zeus. Now, she goes looking and she can't find her. And the nymph that was with Persephone at the time of the abduction actually was so stressed out and so distraught that she cried herself into the river and she became part of the river. And it might seem weird for someone who is new to Greek mythology, but a lot of the things in the natural world were actually personified by becoming gods. There's a story in the Iliad where Achilles fights the river, is what it's called, but it's actually the god who represents the river. We have god of sleep, god of death, god of the mountains, god of all these different things that can be attributed to just personifying nature. So the nymph turned into water. She was an unreliable source because she was just, she was not in the right state of mind. And Demeter was so stressed out. She was looking for her, and it took 9 days while she was searching. And during those 9 days, she didn't attend to any of the things of her responsibilities. She said, I don't care about any of these crops. I don't care about none of this grain, this agriculture. She's like, I need my daughter. So all of that started dying and withering away, and the fields became dark and gloomy, and there was nothing for people to eat, nothing for people to put on sacrifices for the gods, because everything that they got, they would eat it. So this made Zeus worry. Zeus was like, okay. He's like, now I'm starting to get a little concerned for the lives of the humans and for our altars. He's like, none of us are getting sacrifices and none of us are getting anything that, we work so hard to get. So Zeus sends down messengers to Demeter. He sends down Iris, the god of messages and rainbows, and he sends down other gods to go and try to talk to her. They say, hey, go up and talk to Zeus, go and talk to him. He wants to see you in Mount Olympus. He's summoning you. And Demeter says, I don't care if he's summoning me. Let him come to me. She's like, I'm on a mission right now and I need to get this done. She's like, he doesn't care about what I'm going through, so I don't care about what he's going through. And she's tough and she's firm and she's adamant, And so the gods go away and they go back to Zeus with no luck and they say, nope, nothing. And on the 9th day, after searching, Demeter runs into Hecate, or Hecate, as depending on how you pronounce it. And she's the goddess of witchcraft, the threefold goddess. And it's interesting that she found her on the 9th day, because 9 is divisible of 3. It would have been different if she found her on the 10th day or she found her on the 8th day, because none of those are factors of 3. And I just think that's interesting that a goddess that represents 3 was found on 3 squared the 9th day. But she found her, and Hecate told her, she was like, I know someone who will know what happened to your daughter. And Demeter's like, yes, anything, any clue, any whatsoever, because nobody was telling her. Everyone, turned their eyes away, and other people knew about this little negotiation that Zeus gave to Hades. So Hecate tells Demeter, we should go to the Titan god Helios. Helios is the personification of the sun. He has a golden chariot, and behind it he pulls along the sun as it travels, up and down across the earth. So everything that the sun touches, he sees. He is the observer of everything that the sunlight is touching. So he saw, because it happened in the daytime, he saw when Hades abducted Persephone. And Helios tells them, yeah, he's like, it was Hades. You need to get her back from Hades. He's the one that has her. So Demeter says she needs Hermes. She says, I need Hermes because he's the one that could travel to and from the underworld without, being dead. He's the messenger god. He's the one that delivers the souls down to the underworld. And he could take you. He could take someone with the staff and fly down and show you to Hades. So, Hermes and Demeter, they go on this trip and they go down to the underworld. And when they go down to the underworld, they see Persephone, in a comfortable setting, and she's given everything that she could have ever wanted. Hades actually was really good to her. He actually, he told her, he's like, I want to give you equal parts. He's like, I don't want you as, just my bed servant or just whatever, my slave. He's like, I want you as my other half. I want you as the queen of the underworld. And he actually gives her, full rights of queenship down there. So when they're down there, she's sitting there, and of course she was sad at first. Of course she missed her mom, she missed the overworld, and she missed everything that she's so used to having. But when she was down there, she was a different person already. And she was happy to see her mom, and they talked, and Demeter was like, come on, let's go get this fixed. We're gonna go talk to Zeus and see if I could get you back forever. And Persephone says, okay. And they look at Hades, and Hades, when I read the story, I thought, I didn't know anything about Hades. I thought he was gonna say, no, you're staying here with me, you're mine, I own you, you're my property, here's, the title, the lease of bill, whatever. But no, he said, go with your mom, see her, I know you miss her, things have to be done. And I was like, wow, Zeus is actually a compassionate, understanding guy. And he tells her, I understand the feeling of want for you. He's like, so go. And before she leaves though, she eats 6 pomegranate seeds. Now I found different sources, and some of them say that Hades forced her to eat the 6 seeds, and other sources, Persephone ate it willingly. Now, the story doesn't change too much depending on which version you read. It just kind of changes the perception of Hades. But at the end of the day, she ate the seeds, and the 6 seeds represent the 6 months, as we'll know later on, the 6 months that she's going to be to and from. Now, they go to Zeus, and Zeus tells him, like, yeah, I gave Persephone away. He's like, but we need to have a compromise. We need to have somebody in the middle to say, we got to do something to get it done, to get the crops back to growing, to get the humans back alive, to get everything, the world nice and happy. And one reason that Demeter actually takes out her anger on the lack of vegetation is because some people talk about how she hated Gaia because Gaia split the world open to give Hades a chance to come out, and Gaia is the Mother Earth. And so Demeter wanted to directly attack Mother Earth by getting rid of all the crops. Pretty interesting fact. And Demeter and Zeus come to a compromise. Zeus tells them, for half of the year, some stories say a third of the year. Actually, the version I read, he said for a third of the year, you're gonna be with Hades, and for the other 2/3, you're going to be up in the overworld, or vice versa. And so they all agree, and they all end up, having this deal, this business transaction when it comes to marriages, because that's kind of how marriages were back then. They're like, I have this much land and this many goats. How much can I have your daughter for? And so, everyone says, okay, that's a fair deal. Everybody gets what they want. Because Zeus said, I cannot override the fact that she ate food from the underworld. If you eat food from the underworld, you belong there. You're a full-on citizen there, and you can travel, but you're a citizen here, and you always have to come back home. She's like, so he told Demeter, your daughter is now part of the underworld. I cannot take that away from Hades, because that's his realm, those are his laws, and that's just what I have to abide by. And so they come up with this deal, and they say, okay, this is how it's going to be. And Persephone and Hades actually end up being the most functional relationship that I've read in Greek mythology. Every time I read about Persephone, she's actually the one decision making in the underworld. There's just so many times where heroes go to talk to Persephone, and they say they're going to the realm of Hades, but the one who's making the final decisions are Persephone. She's the one that's saying yes and no to a lot of these things. And I don't know if a lot of it comes from, it could be either Hades taking a back seat and saying, I'm gonna let my queen do her queen things, or if she just likes it so much that she's like, you know what, let me take care of this while you go deal with all the other tasks that you have to do. Because clearly he's a busy guy. He's dealing with all the souls that come in. He's dealing with everything death related, and Charon bringing all these souls in, and all the death in the world. And Hades isn't a bad guy. There's actually a part in the Homeric hymns where Helios is telling Demeter, relax, like, your daughter's in good hands. He's like, who else than one of the big three, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades? Who else but one of the big three to be married to your daughter? He's the receiver of many, the keeper of the world's finest jewels, because they knew diamonds and everything, and all those precious jewels grew underground. So Hades had an abundance of it. She'll never falter in her riches. She'll never falter in having enough property or responsibility to own. He was like, or when it comes to power, he's like, that's your brother, one of the Olympians who took on the Titans and won the Titanomachy. He's like, your daughter's in good hands. Your daughter is in a great spot to be in. He's like, so let her have this man, because he's a good guy to her. And he is. He doesn't cheat on her. Hades doesn't go out to the overworld and start, taking all these nymphs and abducting all these other minor goddesses like Poseidon and Hades do. I mean, like Poseidon and Zeus do. He's loyal to her. They even have a dog together, the three-headed Cerberus, and he gives her equal queenship in the entire underworld. And it's like, he's a good guy to her, and they end up actually having a functional relationship. And I just think it's a really good story, and it starts off kind of rough with Hades just snatching her away, and she had no idea. She was just a little pawn on a chessboard, and there was these kings deciding what happens to her without other people knowing what's going on. But at the end of the day, Hades actually ends up making it up to her. He ends up, like, in a way, apologizing by giving her everything that is his, and he treats her as his equal, and she gets 50% of everything, if not more, because it seems like every time I read about her, she's the one doing more things in the other world than he is. And she sort of likes it, she ends up being in a long-term marriage with this guy who doesn't cheat on her, and it's a good thing. And so this is what describes the seasons of change. So this is what describes the coming of summer and the beginning of winter. So Persephone, being the goddess of spring and the daughter of agriculture, every time she goes back up with her mother, i.e. the spring to summertime, Demeter is happy again, and she's excited, and she's like, oh, my daughter's coming, my daughter is finally here. And they start doing all these mother-daughter things, and so the world starts blooming again, and the flowers start to grow, the trees start to grow their leaves again, and the world is happy. The natural world as we know it becomes a happy place, because Demeter and Persephone are both together and happy. And when Persephone starts to go back down to the underworld, fall and wintertime, as she's traveling back down, Demeter starts getting sad. She starts missing her daughter, and the goddess of spring is no longer on the earth, actually with her feet walking on the soil. So the plants actually start going away, and Demeter starts, getting sad, and her blues come out in the weather. And so the trees start falling apart, the leaves start coming down, the days get shorter, the plants start to die, and she's down in the underworld doing her queen things in the underworld. And so this happens every year, and it becomes a cycle, and this is what describes why we have summer and fall. And this goes back to me talking about the personification of the natural world, and how we have these Greek stories to kind of show us what the natural world, how it functioned before we actually had the tilt of the earth and the axis of the sun. And so I think it's a really good story in a way of showing us how we can have a tragedy / love story explain why the sun rises and falls and creates these hot and cold seasons. And it's pretty cool to tie it to our emotions. The world feels emotional as Demeter does with her daughter and without her daughter. And it really goes into more of the idea of personifying the natural world, because we can say, oh, the world is sad because Demeter, who represents agriculture, is also sad. Or Demeter is happy, and that's why flowers bloom, and that's why when we get happy, we feel like we're alive and growing and tall, and all these other things that we can describe with these kind of stories. And it stuck around for a long time, and it really helped a lot of people deal with the seasons and the winter blues, and we started feeling like we're not alone in this giant world that's just chaotic and in a giant void. We could actually put sense to a lot of it and put it in these boxes that we could understand. And it ends up being a good story, and I think that's one of my favorite stories of Greek mythology. And the symbolism of Persephone eating the 6 pomegranate seeds is to represent the 6 months that she's down there in the underworld. the 6 months of winter that she's down there with him, and then the 6 months of summer that she's up with Demeter. And that's the story of Persephone and Hades. And I hope you guys liked it. If there's anything that I missed, let me know. If there's any other ideas that you guys have, I probably will do another video based on the Roman version of the story, because certain things do change. Like Aphrodite and Cupid get involved, and certain people who make decisions actually change depending on if it's Roman or Greek mythology that you're reading it from. But I hope you guys like it. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and take care.